Hello, hello. Today I'm starting this series where I'm going to talk about the recent news and events and the cyber attacks which are taking place across the world and how they took place. I'm going to read through a lot of newspapers, a lot of research articles, and bring back to you an output of how those attacks were performed so that you don't have to do it. And today we're going to talk about this turkey bagged cyber espionage. This was an attack done by Marble Dust, which exploited Output Messenger, which is a messaging app used by corporates. And the CV is named CV 2025 27920. So let's delve right into it. So what we're going to do is that we're going to go through all the steps within the hacking process. Like recon, we're going to talk about what happened in the recon process. We're going to talk about how the scanning and vulnerability discovery took place. We're going to talk about how the initial access was gained. We're going to talk about how the access needs to be maintained here. And I'm also going to walk you through what could be the probable way the attack might have been performed. Of course, this is not going to be the exact detail, but it can be just my perspective on how one might go about to perform this kind of an attack. So let's start with the recon, which is a target research. So here the objective was to identify systems and organizations which were using Output Messenger, specifically among the Kurdish military and infrastructure targets, since this has been done by a Turkish organization or Turkey, right? Identified Output Messenger via OSINT and DNS enumeration, and this monitored the Kurdish infrastructure and job postings. So they did a couple of things in the recon process, and ultimately they used typo squatting or DNS hijacking, or it could even be MITM interceptions. Now, how did they perform this basic recon? It can be done with the help of a tool called Shodan and multiple other tools. So using Shodan, what they've done is they've used this port 52100, which is basically a port which is always used to run the Output Messenger. Of course, you can use some other port as well, but this is the default port which is being used amongst the organizations. So you can just type this command Shodan search Output Messenger port 52100, and you'll be able to find out the names of the servers or the IP addresses across or domain names which have been using this Output Messenger, and it's running on this particular port. Now after they recognize that, you're gonna skim it down to your target, which in this case is the Kurdish military and infrastructure target. Remember, all of this is just information for ethical hackers, and I definitely do not recommend to try this against other states and other targets. This is just for educational purposes. Moving forward, what is typo squatting and DNS hijacking in this case? So, typo squatting, also known as URL hijacking, is a cyber attack where criminals register domain names that are silent misspellings of illegitimate websites. For example, let's say facebook.com. So, the normal spelling of facebook.com is FACEBOOK, where if you could just typo squat this name, you could instead use double K instead of 1K, or you can make some different changes, and it looks like a legitimate website. So this allows them to trick users who make typing errors into visiting malicious sites. Now, potentially for phishing, malware distribution, or other harmful services, this is being used. And what did they do? They registered fake domains mimicking Output Messenger. An example of a typo squatted domain here is Output Messenger. You see that how U has been missed here, .net, and DNS hijacking to redirect users to credential sniffing portals. So now we're going to talk about what is the DNS hijacking and a credential sniffing portal. DNS hijacking is nothing but when an attacker is able to alter the DNS settings on your router and machine or your DNS server. Now, when a user tries to visit a legit website, they are instead redirected to a fake and malicious website controlled by the attacker, because the DNS settings on your router, which are actually giving a name to your IP address, have been altered, which means that now that IP address, which was associated with the legit facebook.com early on, is associated with this attacker controlled typo squatted domain name, which we just saw here. right? So this is what the DNS hijacking means. And credential sniffing portal is a fake login page that looks like an identical real website. For example, Outlook, Output Messenger, Google login pages. And what is the goal? It's to trick users into entering usernames and passwords. And once entered, these credentials are sent to the attacker and not the real website. So you understand how these credentials can be sniffed or can be, sent to the attacker so that they can get initial access to these servers. So until now, what we've observed, that the attackers first did a recon and they found out where, in on port 52100, which are the websites, IP addresses and domain names specifically related to this military target are running. And once they achieve that, they also started typo squatting and URL hijacking to get a credential, to get their credentials to a credential sniffing portal so that they could get initial access to the servers. Now, in this attack, Marble Dust, which is the group behind this attack, which has claimed the responsibility for this attack, hijacked the DNS settings so that when Kurdish military personnel tried to log into their Outlook Messenger, they were silently redirected to a fake login portal crafted by the hackers. Their victims unknowingly enter their credentials, which were then harvested by the attackers. These credentials were used to log into the real system later and launch further attacks. How can this be done? Example here is for victim types https outputmessenger.company.com, and but due to DNS hijack, it opens at the attacker.fakelogin.com, right? Moving forward, now we are coming to the second step of exploitation, which is scanning and vulnerability discovery. So in the first step, they did a recon, they tried to get information, they tried to get credentials, they tried to perform typo squatting, DNS hijacking, and it could even have been an MITM interception, in which, let's say, the traffic is being transferred between two different websites or two different targets or two different client and servers. The MITM is placed in the middle of the client and server to intercept the traffic and get the credentials out of it. It seems easy, but it's difficult when it's being done practically, and it's almost impossible to intercept credentials these days. But yeah, that can be a possibility as well. But we're just covering the bases which we can think of right now. Moving forward, we are going to scanning and vulnerability discovery. Now, for scanning, they look for vulnerable version 2.0.62 of Output Messenger, fingerprint specific Output Messenger server versions vulnerable to CVE 2025-27920. So now let's dive right into the CVE which we've been speaking about since the beginning of this video, and this is a directory traversal flaw. CV 2025-27920 is a directory traversal bug in Output Messenger Server Manager. Now, what does this do? It allows remote authenticated attackers to access or execute arbitrary files on the server. How is it triggered? It is triggered due to improper sanitization of file paths from user input. For example, this is a very, very common example of directly brute forcing using a dot slash technique. So let's say arbitrary files can be accessed using this technique with the help of a URL, and ultimately the attacker is running something like Windows slash system 32 slash cmd.exe, which is helping them get the command prompt in this case. Now, this could also allow attackers to read or execute server files by bypassing and the file access restrictions using the dot slash sequences, as I mentioned. Right, so this is how they perform the vulnerability discovery. First, they fingerprinted the servers where this directory traversal vulnerability could be available. This can be done with the help of multiple tools which are available, and you can also do directory brute forcing. And once you are able to find out, the servers, sorry the servers is something which you'll be able to find out in the initial process of the recon. And now when you're enumerating, you're going to check what is the version of the server which is being used here, and once you're able to identify that, that's when you'll start with the directory brute forcing, which is ultimately exploiting the directory traversal flaw here. Now, moving forward, let's talk about how they would have gained access to exploit this particular CVE. So, authenticated to server manager using stolen credentials in the first part. Using stolen credentials via phishing or intercepted traffic to log into the server manager as an authenticated user. Now, there are these three payloads which they might have created: om.vbs, which is the output manager.vbs file, output manager server service, and output manager server service.exe. Now, these VBS scripts are used to silently execute the payload without alerting the users. So, this particular diagram is basically telling you what is going to be the flow of this payload execution. Number one is this omb server service.vbs. This is going to get executed. And how is this going to get executed? Because this is placed in the startup folder, which we'll cover in just a minute. Then om.vbs will be called through this execution, and this in turn would call this server service.exe, which is the Golang backdoor which we are talking about. And what does this backdoor do? Once it is executed, it will start exfiltrating the data to an attacker controlled C2 domain. We're going to cover all this in the gaining access part. Now, OM server service.exe is a Golang backdoor, Golang binary that connects to api.wordinfos.com, sends victim data like hostname, IP, etc. And it also receives commands or scripts from C2, and it executes the command using cmd/c, and this is the payload where a malicious command can be executed. How this is happening is when we mentioned that once we are able to get the cmd.exe here, what we'll do is we'll authenticate to the server manager using the stolen credentials. And once we are able to authenticate to the server manager, we will create these three scripts and start injecting these scripts through this command.exe into the server manager. So these are the scripts which we've been talking about. C program data startup. In the startup folder, we are going to put this om.vbs, and in public.videos, we're going to put this omserver.exe. Now this zero here signifies a hidden window, which means that this will not be visible to the user when it's getting executed. And same is the case with this particular script as well. So this means that users never sees the executable run, and it launches a Golang backdoor which connects to the C2 domain. So this is what makes this attack so powerful. And once inside, Marble does have full access to the server manager. This is what has been depicted here. Now, this start menu, program and startup. Once we place the server service.vbs in the startup, it ensures persistence, which means that after every system reboot, the startup folder will automatically run all the programs and services which are there in that folder, and this service in turn will also get executed. Now, this file server.server is placed in videos, common hiding technique for non-suspicious public media files, because we also want to ensure that this attack is not getting traced back at, otherwise a backdoor will stop functioning. Now, how to maintain access using this Golang backdoor? This backdoor is written in Golang. So the reason of writing this backdoor in Golang is, first of all, cross-platform stealth. It runs in all the platforms. Go is a language that compiles natively for Windows, Linux, and macOS. Malware written in Go can run on multiple platforms with minimal changes. Go binaries are statically linked, making them harder to reverse engineer and detect. And it is a preferred language for modern APTs, which are the advanced persistent threats, due to its stealth, speed, and flexibility. So there has been a mention of something like a C2 before as well. This is a command and control server where the attacker controls infected machines. So the backdoor contacts a hard-coded domain called api.wordinfos.com. And this domain is used to verify connectivity, send victim ID and info and hostname and IP to the attacker, and also receive payloads and commands from the command and control server. So this domain is basically connected to C2, and both of this and this connection has been written in Golang in this file called omserverservice.exe, right? So once this connection and connectivity is established, what happens is infected client and server receives a response from C2 with a malicious command, tells Windows to execute and receive the command, close the command prompt afterward. And powerful because attacker can run any command or script remotely without needing further exploitation. So, what is the client side infection in this case? Two key executable. Number one is output messenger.exe, which is a legit file, And number two is OM client service.exe, which is the malicious Golang backdoor. So both are extracted and run together during client installation. This dual execution keeps the functionality intact to avoid suspicion and ensures stealthy persistence. What is the final result? The user sees output messenger running normally, while in the background, OM client service.exe communicates with the attacker's server and executes remote commands. This is huge, right? So, this is a legit way in which a particular adversary would be able to exploit something like this, a vulnerability like this, or a CV like this in an organization by chaining these attacks to this level. So let's get into the summary of what I just explained. Number one is access, login using stolen credentials to output Messenger Server Manager. Then upload, place .vbs scripts in the startup folder and .exe in public directory. How to persist? Startup scripts run after every reboot. What is the execution flow? OM server service.vbs, om.vbs, which is in turn calling OM server service.exe, which is the client exe file which we've been talking about in the previous slides. And this is basically the backdoor which is getting executed and connecting to the C2 to receive commands and also to exfiltrate data. Goal: establish silent backdoor with data exfiltration and remote execution. I hope there are no doubts here after this explanation. These slides will also be available in the description of the video so you can go and check them out. Now, clearing tracks. After performing the attack, it's important to clear the tracks. So, minimal file system footprint. All files dropped in standard and overlooked Windows locations, for example, videos, and startup scripts blend in with system operations. So, this is a very stealthy attack and legitimate executable side loading. Launching malware with slash next to real apps files reduces detection. So when real apps and files are added in the when the malware is added to real apps and files, it reduces detection and no public disclosure in vendor advisory. Shemax did not mention real world exploitation, delaying mass patching. So this was also the reason behind this attack getting executed because this patch version of this particular CV has been released in December 2024. And the version which you need to update right now, if you're an organization which is using something like this, is 2.0.63 so that you're not falling prey to this directory traversal vulnerability. Directory traversal affected this version. Exploitability requires authentication, and impact is arbitrary file read or execution on the server. So lessons and recommendations out of something like this is update Output Messenger to version 2.0.63 plus immediately. Monitor egress traffic to unknown domains like something like wordinfos.com. So most of the companies are not monitoring the egress traffic, which is something which is kind of problematic. I understand that ingress traffic is something which we care about the most, but sometimes egress traffic to unknown domains is also something which we need to monitor, right? So this is required. And isolate messaging servers from critical infra, place them in, you know, at a place where there is an air gap. Implement 2FA and credential walls to protect access, and run regular vulnerability scans, behavior monitoring using EDR and SIM, which is security incident and event management system. This is the attack flowchart of the marble dust attack, which has been performed by the Turkish attackers. Recon, OSINT, or DNS hijack. Then they performed the scanning and detected this version. Then they gained access using directory traversal, and also after they have performed this recon, they used the credentials which they got here in the directory traversal. They started dropping the scripts. Three scripts they have dropped: omvbs server service.exe. And once these scripts are executed, they're also connecting to this backdoor which is maintaining the golang c2 backdoor access for the attacker. And this in turn is connecting to the api wordinfos.com, which is helping in the data exfiltration. If you have any, comments regarding this video, feel free to share your feedback and let me know if you have any questions.